the station where our veterans' voices are heard, MBR Talk.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. Welcome, Quack.
Program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
Welcome to Freedom Chat, where real Americans speak their minds. And no topic is off limits. No scripts, no judgment, just honest conversation, raw, unfiltered, and free. If you're ready to challenge the narrative and celebrate true freedom, you're in the right place. This is Freedom Chat.
Good morning. Right off the bat, Navy beat Army last night in the football game. It was a great game. Neither team should be ashamed of themselves. So
I watched it. It was a good game.
I'm glad Navy won. I'm even more glad that the game was a great game. And look, I love blowouts, especially when it's Navy versus Army. But when you have a game that's that close and that hotly contested, it's a lot of fun to watch. So current events. Right off the bat, there was a shooting at Brown University yesterday, and I'm going to be unlike the mainstream, which is already going to probably have it pegged as a white conservative extreme, which is what the mainstream media likes to do. They like to pin it on anybody that is even remotely conservative by nature, even though most conservatives, and we're going to go through this when we read this email from Jason Crow that I received in response to my email demanding he resign, which subsequently I tried to demand his resignation again, but wouldn't you know it, you can't respond to emails from the congressman.
Wow.
So, you know, I mean, I don't even know what to say about any of that, except it's just mind-numbing and very frustrating how you know, little you actually get to respond to your congressman. And it is quite embarrassing. All right.
He's a chicken shit.
Yeah, and look, the other thing we're gonna tackle it a little bit deeper in a few minutes, but we're going to talk about what also happened in Sydney, Australia. There was a mass shooting by two, hey, here's a shocker for you, Islamists of Middle Eastern descent. One of them got caught. I believe one of them was shot, and the other one is in custody.
Yeah.
But we're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about the problems that religious group tends to create. How's that? Is that all right? We can do that?
Sure.
Because I think we need to tackle that as much as people don't want to tackle it because they want to be, you know, they don't want to be accused of being Islamophobic. You know, of course, those people don't understand that a phobia is an irrational fear. And I don't fear anybody but God. So we'll just kind of leave it at that, right?
Hey, by chance, did you guys catch the little video clip of the guy taking the gun away from the other guy?
Yeah. Yeah, I did. I actually caught that on Facebook.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Just, and then, you know, contained him with the gun. I mean, kept the gun pointed on him, and that was
after he grabbed that gun, he got shot himself. The other shooter shot him.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. And we're going to talk deeper into it because, you know, this is the holiday season. This is the season that we're supposed to be celebrating peace on earth, but apparently the people who are of the Muslim faith, they apparently don't want to follow that pathway. So, anyway, we'll get into that in a minute. And look, I'm not going to get too deep into Brown because I would rather wait until all of the facts come out to find out what is going on there. I will keep in mind that Brown University is one of the Ivy League universities, and they are known for their liberal their liberal agendas. So just keep that in mind, that you're already dealing with people that for some reason want to get unhinged. Fine, they can be unhinged. Don't care. But anyway, Thanksgiving morning, I sent Jason Crow an email. This was after they did their quote-unquote "Don't Give Up the Ship" video. Him and his 5 congressmen / congresswomen and senators, to include Mark Kelly, who is currently the most public of the 6, because he just doesn't know how to shut up and quit when he's behind. But we're going to go through this, and I want to know how you guys feel about each little segment that we're going to cover. All right. So first thing he does is, thanks me for taking the time. Thank you for taking the time to contact me regarding the "Don't Give Up the Ship" video and President Trump's response. Hearing directly from constituents is one of the most important parts of my job, and provides me with valuable feedback to better represent our community. Mom, he's your congressman. How well represented do you feel about Jason Crow?
Like I'm maybe a speck of dirt that he steps on when he walks out the door.
Jason.
Yeah.
Dennis, I don't know who is your congressman. Do you know?
I'm not sure, honestly. That's sad to say.
You should look that up. Would be quite illuminating, so to speak. Okay, so he goes on to say, as a former Army Ranger and paratrooper, that's something he always likes to bring up, who served 3 combat tours, and this is where he contradicts the video. Okay, keep in mind, this is where he contradicts the video, and this is where this is what needs to be hammered home with all of these people. Okay. I swore an oath to protect and defend the Constitution and know firsthand the service and sacrifice that our service members make. Before each of my combat deployments, I sat my soldiers down and we talked about the law of war, rules of engagement, and their responsibility to protect civilians in the conflict in the conflict zone, the combat zones. We never wait until a soldier is in the moment and must make split-second life and death decisions to remind them of their obligations to follow the law. This is where he contradicts himself from the video, because he never mentions this in the video. He never mentions the fact that an officer spoke to, "Hey, come on." He never mentions that officers are assigned to JAG officers to commands, and that the chain of command is set up to ensure that enlisted members don't act outside of their purview. So in his email to me, he contradicts the "Don't Give Up the Ship" video. By his own admission, he does this. And I'm not going to sit and sugarcoat how upset it makes me when an officer or a former officer who knows better tells American servicemen to not follow orders. And I don't care that they said illegal orders. And H is on. H, you were enlisted, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, I was enlisted. I didn't make the money like y'all made.
Yeah, me neither. So let me ask you a question, because you were enlisted. We as enlisted men on a ship, there's a reason why the enlisted men follow the orders of the officers, because the officers are there and they know the rules and they know how the rules work, and they are attached to a JAG officer. It's a judge advocate general. It's basically a lawyer whose only role is to advise the commanding officer and or the commander, this is lawful, this is legal, this is constitutional. That is his role. Now, This video that these 6 congressmen and senators put out contradicts and completely negates that very valuable point that a chain of command has. And then when he emails me back, and this is coming directly from his email, this is what made me so upset about that video, is because if we have men and women in combat, and one of these young men and women goes back and in the back of his mind remembers this "don't give up the ship" video and decides, I think this is illegal, and stops participating, this is where it gets dangerous. And this is not about whether they were right or wrong. I believe that they were wrong. And the reason I believe that they were wrong is having been in a couple of situations where I had to follow a directive. I know and I'm expected to entrust my decision-making linked directly with that JAG officer and the officers appointed over me. There's a reason why our enlistment oath is different from the officer's oath of office.
So I have a question, and
Yeah.
and I might be wrong, but just think about this. Now, Mark, I know you was in the military. I think, didn't you use in the military too, right?
No.
No.
You and I are the only two.
Okay.
All
right.
I tried to join.
No worries. The reason why I bring that up is, it's funny that you guys are talking about the subject today, because, I have a couple of friends that are active right now, that are showing up at 6:30 formation and all that stuff, right?
Dark 30.
What's interesting is I talked to them about it, and they didn't even know this shit was going on.
Wow.
They didn't even okay. They didn't even know this shit going on. But then again, think about this, Mark. Okay, think about this. When we were in, did we really pay attention to CNN, or did we really just pay attention to our LES?
No, we paid attention to our job, and most military people are going to do that. The challenge that we have is because this was done exclusively on social media, and
right?
Broadcast all over.
But what I'm saying is, like, when we were in, for example, great example, okay, when we were in and Bill Clinton had that extracurricular activities at the Oval Office, okay?
Hey, wait a minute. He said he didn't have sexual relations with
hey,
that woman.
he also said he sucked, but he didn't inhale, okay? So, take it at his worth, all right? What I'm getting ready to say is, when me and you served, like that whole thing with Bill Clinton, that didn't affect us, did it?
No.
Why is it that it seems like this outside noise, this political noise, it really affects people that are out or that never served compared to the people that were there? Because, it was funny because, I forget his name, Tim Kennedy or whatever his name is.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
That talked about, or Mark Kennedy or Mark Kelly, whatever his name is.
Yeah, Mark Kelly.
That
the
talked
former
about,
officer.
Right, that that talked about, hey, make sure that you don't listen to bad blah 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 blah.
Right.
Like, I talked to my friend Corey, and he's like, huh, that's weird, and I'm like, what? And he's like, last time I checked, he was in that 6:30 formation. Man,
right.
People that are stationed or that are currently live, it's just like the different Broncos. These guys don't give a shit what these people say on the outside.
H, I'll tell you the truth. I personally agree with you. The issue that I have is we have a chain of the chain of command does not go from Congress to the serviceman. It goes from the commander-in-chief to the serviceman.
I don't even think we have a chain of command. I think we have a chain of drama. I think we have a chain of drama. I think it's as the White House turns, every single week it's something. It's either Democrats this week or it's Republicans. They're flinging mud, and
I'm hearing you on that too. But what I am getting at is, and this was the crux of, because I watched the video when it came out, And the only thing I said to myself is these are all former military people. These are people who know that there is a chain of command and know that there are safeguards in place within the chain of command. And they basically made a decision to tell, especially the enlisted guys. You're right. Most enlisted guys, they live in a bubble and they stay in that bubble, and it actually protects them. But
Yeah,
what
they don't
if-
give a shit.
and I hate saying this, but what if you have one who is outside of that bubble for just a moment and it causes him to pause and he's in combat? He just cost people their lives. And more importantly, those 6 people who are supposed to be preserving our Constitution and following our laws just put that young man and by extension his unit at risk of losing their lives. That was my problem. And I agree with you. And I was kind of going to get to that with this. We all, when we were in the military, look, when I was on a ship, if I watched CNN, it was just to see what was happening now. But when they went into the political commentary crap, I didn't even pay attention because we don't care what they're thinking. Our mission is cut and dry, and we're going to follow our mission because it's cut and dry. But
My mission, hey, when I was in, I'll just be honest with you, Mark. When I was in, my mission was to keep track of my LES. That was my mission. You know, I'm going to do what my NCOs tell. It doesn't
Right.
matter if the president told me to go to the porta potty and clean it. I
Right.
would literally look at him and I'm like, with all due respect, sir, I take my orders from a squad leader.
right, with all due respect, and that is, I don't know. Well, did you ever do anything joint?
Oh, I
With
did.
the Navy?
I did a lot of stuff. I did a lot of
Okay.
stuff. All I'm saying is,
So
it just
what I
seems
find
like-
is,
Go ahead.
so what I find funny, because you were Army, right?
Uh-huh.
I did a joint tour in Cuba with Army, Coast Guard, Marine Corps, Air Force, and I always found the Army's chain of command to be unique and the most effective of any of the other chains of command because you guys used position of authority within the job structure where we always had to go to a chief or an LPO, and an E5 could get basically overrun by an E6 or an E7, and that didn't happen in the Army. Hey, I'm the one in charge of these radios. I'm an E9. I don't give a rat's. I'm in charge of these radios. You don't have positional of authority over this. The Army's ability to compartmentalize and effectively run because of the compartmentalization, I swear, I wish the other branches would follow the Army's way of doing things sometimes.
You know, I honestly, Mark, I think you might have got with a special unit because that doesn't sound like my Army unit at all, to be honest with you. And you know, that's the thing. That's the thing. You have to understand that every Army unit, just like when you go to one fast food joint to another fast food joint, everybody that you work with is going to be super different. You know, that's the reason why we have a lot of people that re-enlist, and then we got a lot of people that they're like, screw this shit, you know, and this isn't organized, you know.
Right.
I mean,
And we always talk about, hey, new commanding officer, what's that mean? That means that in about 2 weeks, everything's going to change.
right? Damn, another Dog and Tony show.
Yeah, here we go. But, you know, I sent an email to Congressman Crow in response to the video, and I'm kind of going through his response to me. And the thing is that it was as irresponsible of a decision for those 6 congressmen and senators to do that. And then, you know, of course, we know Mark Kelly is, like I said earlier, he just can't get out of his own damn way. I think that the other ones have basically backed off, although they are responding to messages. I know they are because
Right.
Crow's. Look, I sent him an email on Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
I didn't
you know,
get it
that-
back
that's
until
what-
this week.
That's what I've been trying to tell these guys that have been fighting the Richard Starr Act for the last, 7-8 months,
Yep.
because it was on the floor again and it didn't get blocked, but it didn't even get talked about. It didn't even get voted again.
No,
Okay,
and-
I don't think this shit's gonna happen. All right, what I'm gonna say is that I don't know why we keep emailing these guys, because emailing is not doing anything. All right.
No,
It's just sending us a regenerated reply. What we need to do is, if people really want change, we don't need to like show up in herds of a bunch of people. That's not going to do nothing.
No,
we don't need to sit on their social media and like try to ruin their lives and dispute and disclose and you know, and make fun of them or anything like we've been doing with Wicker, because it's not going to do anything. We have to understand that these politicians are in a position where they're making just enough amount of money to say, you know what, I don't give a shit what these guys say.
Yeah,
I'm on my yacht here this Saturday, you know.
And H, that was one thing that Jason, that Denny and my mom and I have talked about in the past. If you talk to people who are in that world, a congressman and a senator's less because they have a 6-year term. Congressman's definitely because they are only there for 2 years. They get elected and they maybe legitimately work for a year, maybe, because the next year is dedicated to re-election. And in all honesty, they're really only, and this is just my opinion, let me disclose Mark's opinion. They're only interested to getting to at least 6 years. Why? Because after 5, they have a pension for life. So they're only interested in protecting that job for about 6 years. Because then they get paid whether they do anything or not.
Right, and that's the reality. That's what we need to understand. That's the reality. They don't care about you. It's a job, okay? When you're at your job, you don't really care about that customer unless you're at that job.
Well, hang on a second. That's not true, because I mean, I drive school buses, and I damn sure care about the kids that I drive.
That's a different job, okay? That's a different job, all right? We're talking about like McDonald's or Subway or something like that, you know, something like that. But yeah, you're in a totally different category with kids, brother.
So Dennis and Mom, I want you guys to jump in. I'm gonna actually shut up for a second. I know it's a shock. Dennis, you're up.
Well, you guys are right. I mean, I think that when it comes down to it, you know, it's all about money and power and how it makes you feel. And so I think that for a majority of the people in government seats, wherever they may be, I think that's how it makes them feel. And I think that is what they try to hang on to more so than anything else. We can ask them, you know, about various things. Hey, you think you can get this done? You think you can get this done? And ultimately, I don't even think none of them really care. Maybe a few do, but for the most part, I don't think it's more about their status.
Mom, what do you think? Where do you stand on all this?
I think it's like a cross section of humanity. There's the good, the bad, and the ugly, and there's a whole lot of in-betweeners.
So,
and my opinion, if you want to clean up the mess in Washington, the first thing you need to do is get rid of the people that pay off the senators and the congressmen to promote their business or whatever.
So you're talking about the lobbyists.
Lobbyists.
So,
get rid of the lobbyists.
Okay, so
and then make the Congress, including the senators, if we have to live with Obamacare, then they should be living with Obamacare. If they can't live with Obamacare, then by God, maybe they'll do something about it.
All right, so I want to kind of I brought this up. I'm going to run this one by H. One of the best things that we could do to make our government better, more efficient, and more service driven is term limits for the House of Representatives and the Senate. We already know that the president has a term limit of 2 terms. That's 8 years. My suggestion, and I don't know how many people agree or disagree, but my suggestion is the Senate would only get 2 terms because it's 6 years of a term. So they only get 12 years to serve your constituents. The Congress, being that a term limit for a Congress is 2 years. So I said 5 terms. That's 10 years. That's less than the Senate because they're the lower chamber, but it's more than the president because no one person should have that much power. So you're looking at House of Representatives would be in for at maximum 10 years. That's 2 times 5. Senators, 2 times 2, 6 years. That's 12 years. If we could do that, and look, this is going to have to, the pressure, and then Joel, you're right. We're going to have to put pressure directly on these people. And it doesn't mean threaten them, and it doesn't mean be nasty to them. It just means, are you people really people that want to serve your communities? Because every email I get from this guy and every email I get from my congressman talks about how important it is to serve their constituents. Well, if that's the case, and you were talking about that act that we talked about that is supposed to help our veterans, right? Well, Jason Crow, why have you not brought this to the floor? You're my congressman and I'm a veteran. Why have you not brought this to the floor?
Because it doesn't push your agenda.
That's
what
correct.
it is. And the thing is, you know, when I was talking about these emails sending and stuff, what I didn't get to finish was, you know, if we really want to make a change, we need to be like at their office, sitting on a bench, willing to talk to them face to face.
Oh, absolutely.
Of course, they want to. They want us to email. They want us to call. They want us to text because you know it's just like a radio station. If nobody's calling in, then you feel you're obsolete. And Denny, for what you was talking about earlier, dude, I totally agree with you. I don't think it has anything to do with money. I think it has to do with prestige, you know?
Right.
Prestige.
Yep.
My connection. Who am I connected to? What can I have happen? Stuff like that. You know, and
I'm a former congressman.
And I don't think term limits, we can talk about that till we're blue in the face, guys. That shit's not gonna happen. Okay. It's never gonna happen. It's never gonna happen. But what can happen?
So hey, wait, if it does happen, do I get your seat as the head of MBR?
Sure, I will eat crow. Okay, sure. I've eaten crow before. Okay, but I don't think term limits are going to happen. But what I do see that could happen, that we could make a push for, is changing the qualifications.
Oh,
changing the qualifications. You know,
agreed.
Hey. When you're in the military, you have to be in so many weeks before you get promoted, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, well, how is it that Obama, who is like what was he, a 1 year senator with Illinois?
He was a 1-term senator, man.
Yeah, 1 term, and then bam, he becomes president. Hey, you know what?
Well, that's because he met all of the criteria according to the Constitution.
If you want to be, I say, if you want to be a president. Now, see. For the longest time, I thought, hey, you know, you need to serve in the military because then you have some kind of integrity. And then we had a couple of veterans that, you know, I had a whole lot of high respect because one was a Ranger and one was Special Forces.
Oh, yeah.
Stuff.
Yeah.
And then, you know what? Jason Crow and David Crenshaw, there's nothing different. They're both making money.
Oh,
they're both rich behind the scenes. You know,
I agree.
They can talk a bit of smack here and there. So I don't think it has anything to do with if they were in the military. I don't think it has anything to do with if they were a Mason. But what I do think that we can do is change it to where, hey, look, you know, for you to be a president, you have to serve at least 1 year as a governor or a mayor.
And sadly enough, that's never going to happen either.
Right, exactly. You know why it's never going to happen? It's never going to happen because we're the ones upset. We're the one giving out the noise. They're not upset.
That's right. See, and this is one thing, and I'm gonna say this, and I don't look to people that are watching. I have always come out and said, I don't care what other people think because their opinions are not my responsibility. I want to listen to what is being said, but I want to make sure that people need to understand that my opinion is formed by me, not formed by other people and not influenced by other people. So I'm going to say this, and Joel, I don't know how you're going to feel about this, but I am going to say this. One of the things that makes the current president as much of a drama machine as he is, one of the things that draws people to him is that he, whether we want to admit it or not, came from the outside and to a very large degree still sits on the outside fringe of what everybody considers normal politics. Win, lose, or draw, you're talking about a guy who on a very core level speaks that language of, we don't feel like we've been listened to for so long. Here's a guy who actually appears to a degree that he's actually listening and that he's actually trying to understand the complaints and the grievances of the American people. Now, I don't know how everybody else feels about that, but that was one of the reasons that I voted for him the second and third time he ran, is simply because the man spoke to me a little bit by saying, look, they don't care about you. They haven't cared about you forever. I don't have to come in here and do this, but I love my country. Now, I'm also going to say, the man's an egomaniac. Holy crap. But you name one president outside of maybe George Washington that wasn't a egotistical egomaniac. Name one. Okay, Lincoln.
I think all of them suck.
I know. I agree with you. Well, like I said, with the exception of George Washington, who I've always said was the only one who truly understood the office was service, not power. And he really was, and you could tell by his writings and by the things that he said and by the things that he did. But every other guy ran for that position of power, that position, as you said, Joel, that position of prestige. And you brought up Crenshaw. Crenshaw is a Navy SEAL with one eye, and I thank you for your service and your sacrifice, Mr. Crenshaw. But you are just like Jason Crow. You're an empty suit.
Well, all of them are, man, because once they get in that position, you change, and we can't sit here. I mean, we can sit here and critic, but let's face it: if we were in the same position, we don't know how it is. We're not in their shoes.
No, you're right, and that's why I don't empathize.
We might change our position, and that's the reason why I bring this up. And then I'm going to go ahead and go because I've took enough time of your speed.
Hey, Joel.
I just wanted to come on here and really wish all three of you guys Merry Christmas, and I'm so glad that you're here.
Hey, I got to say something, man. Anytime you want to come on and help take over the show, you are welcome to come on because your perspective is unique, and your perspective is as far as I'm concerned, absolutely respected and even admired, because you're coming from a perspective that is very much more in the middle of everything as opposed to right and left. And I have always considered myself, as long as it's constitutional, that's what side of the fence I'm going to be on. And as much as I try to be as objective as I can, it's real hard.
It is
objective.
It is. And
it is completely anytime, man, come on up.
And I'm telling you, one thing that we need to think about, like we don't think about it, but maybe we should start thinking about it, is maybe the system that the country has, maybe it's outdated. Maybe we need to change this shit. Maybe we need to update it. I mean, how many times have we changed from VHS to DVD to Blu-ray? I mean, Christ, look at how many times. But we're still running a system just like we're reading a book that has been a million years ago,
And I agree with you. I agree with you to a point. I think that the system has become perverse, and it's become perverse because the people who have sworn that oath are influenced by sources that are not directly related to the people they're supposed to be serving. And that's by media, that's by money, that's by corporations, that's by, like my mom said, the lobbyists come out. Well, who are the lobbyists representing? Well, if they're not representing a constituent, they're not representing the community, then they shouldn't even be there exerting any kind of influence or any kind of power. But they do. And it's frustrating because it shouldn't be like that. But hey, shouldn't, could, and wouldn't, right?
Right.
I've always said this, and I think you'll agree with me on this. If we want to change the course of this country, the very first people that we have to be willing to take a look at is the person that we look at when we look in the mirror, because we're the ones that can exert the most amount of influence, especially if we all came together. Like you talk about, we need to come together. And you're right. The American people, I'm not talking about Democrats, Republicans, Independents. American people need to come together and tell their congressmen, senators, and presidents that we are tired of not being adequately and effectively represented. And that's your job. Your job is to represent. And when you come out, and it doesn't matter whether it's this six that did this video or the Jasmine Crockett's of the world that come out and talk all kinds of insanity, or the Marjorie Taylor Greens who sat in Congress for 4.5 years and looks around going, nothing's getting done because nothing wants to change. And that's why she's stepping down. I actually respect her more than I respect anybody else, because she's looking at this going, until the system stops being broken, I'm not wasting my time.
Well, I mean, just the fact that she stepped out completely because she became not friends with Donald Trump. That tells you how much power right now is in that seat. If somebody's stepping out because they're like, oh, there's no use of continuing because my career is over. For somebody to have that much power over another person's career, we really need to look at that. And I'm going to say this before I get going, because I don't want to hijack your show, which I pretty much already have. And I didn't mean for that shit. And I'm sorry, Mom. I'm sorry for doing that.
Hey, you just said an S word, and I've been very good about not cussing.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
He has been good, Joel.
Yeah, he has been. I'm telling you.
Hey, considering I'm a sailor and it's like second nature.
I'm a trucker, so I'm right there with it.
I guess I'm going to leave it to this. We need to learn as humans that just like when we're talking to mom or talking to dad, we have to know what makes them tick. We have to know how to talk to them. We have to know what is their empathy point. We have to know all this stuff. And what we're doing is we're sitting here going to these senators, these Congress people, and we're yelling at them. We're doing billboards, we're doing all this stuff. And just maybe we should go back and learn how they were brought up, how they were raised. What school do they go to? What makes them tick? Maybe we're trying to talk to them direct, and instead of talking to them direct, we need to talk to them through empathy. Because let me tell you, everybody's against illegal immigrants. Okay.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. All right.
Absolutely.
I'm not against illegal immigrants for only one reason why. I spent a day with an illegal immigrant, and he told me his life. He told me what was going on. He told me his background. He told me everything. So before we put everybody in that circle, remember, before we judge another person, we need to live with them, or we need to spend at least 8 hours to understand them. It's very easy to tell everybody, hey, you know what? You get in jail, I'm not going to bail you out. But guess what? 90% of the time that person gets in jail, you're bailing them out, their ass out, because you've never been in their shoes. So we can't judge people that we've never been in our shoes. I get what you're talking when everybody's talking about, like, illegal immigrants, and we need to push this, we need to push that, and that's true. But remember, there is that 1% out there that has just got a raw deal in life.
I don't disagree.
and we need to think about them as well.
I don't disagree, and I do think about them. But I work with a group of immigrants that are Ethiopian, and they're all legal, as in they have
Right.
their visas, the whole 9 yards. And I can't empathize with people that I haven't walked a mile in their shoes. I've never been an immigrant. I've never had a visa. My daughter is about to go to South Africa under a student visa, so she's about to walk into that kind of realm where she is on a visa.
And
Which
she's
means-
going to have a different project.
So her
Yeah.
perspective is about to change, and
Right.
she have more of an empathetic ear.
And I guarantee you will too, Mark, because that's
Well,
your
I
daughter.
already do, because it's insanity, and I'm scared half to death for her. I'm not gonna lie. I'm proud of my daughter, but scared half to death for her, because South Africa is not really the greatest place right now in certain areas. But she's going to the University of Cape Town. I have faith that the system, both Colorado University and the University of Cape Town, are going to take care of her and are going to make sure that things don't happen that they can control. And I'm good with that. But back to my Ethiopian coworkers, and they are my friends. The reason that I have an issue with illegal immigrants is when you talk to these people that go through the system and follow that rule that we have to follow when we go into foreign nations ourselves,
Yeah.
and someone jumps over and is immediately given benefits by the government that is supposed to be following laws. Well, you just subverted the law, and then the government is now helping you stay in that world subverted. Well, these people came in on their own dime, got their visas, have to reapply, are working towards citizenship themselves. Right. And I'm sitting there going, okay, if I were to cross over to Mexico, they would detain me, and then they would either put me in jail or they would send me back to the United States. Same thing with Kennedy.
And you bring up a good point. And to every story, there's always three sides.
Right.
When we're talking about the legal immigrants and stuff like that, the ones that have warrants out for their arrest.
Yes.
My question to myself is, now we was at that point when Biden was in. Okay,
yes.
I'll agree with you on that. But at this point where we're at, is that a majority or a minority issue now?
Well,
because it's been over 6 months now.
I agree.
That majority should be done.
Yes. Well, here's what I do know. Over 2 million self-deported. So that was people who were here quietly, and
Right.
they said, you know what, we want the opportunity to come back the right way. So
Right.
we're going to go ahead and we're going to self-deport. But the criminal element, and when Lucas and I had the one debate, and I said, you're talking about 11 million over 4 years, and those are the ones that we know about. Those aren't even the ones that we don't know about.
Well,
And-
we think we know about. Remember, you guys, we're taking the word of the media and we're taking the word of the politicians.
Well,
all right? We didn't even know that Tyson, they've got people decimating in
Right.
the food factories.
Oh,
so
well, no,
what we don't
agreed.
know won't hurt us.
Agreed and acknowledged. But the question rapidly becomes, if there are groups that came in here illegally that we didn't catch, and they are there for nefarious purposes, which we were just talking about Sydney, Australia. Those two guys, I don't know anything about the two guys that committed that act in Sydney. I don't know if you know about that, but 10 people were killed in Sydney today. And I'm sitting there going, how many of those potential threats are sitting in our nation right now? And that's something that I am concerned about. Keeping your head on a swivel is something that, Joel, you and I know. Hey, keep your head on a swivel, because
Right.
the attack from behind is going to be far more devastating than the attack from the front. And that's one of the things that I get concerned about. It's got nothing to do with the ones that we caught or the ones that Biden let through, because you can at least track them. It's the ones that we don't, the ones that slipped through all of those cracks and all those safeguards. Granted, it was an open barn door, and I readily accept that begrudgingly for 4 years. It was an
Yeah,
open door.
I just feel the reason why I brought that up is just I just feel at this point,
Well,
these
it's only been 8 months, right? He's got to figure out how to clean this up for the next 3 years.
I'm starting to think that I'm starting to think the tank is empty, and that right now, illegal immigrants and that whole situation right now, I think it's running like fumes.
I don't know.
I think that it's like when we were in the military, Mark. After you've been deployed, when you've been deployed and you come back, like how long are you kind of aggressing? Because you're kind of winding down from that military tone to back to the civilian life, and your aggression. Well, we got to think the ICE agents, just like military veterans, like when they're going in and they're powering. I think people just need to realize, look, we're people, and when we get going, our aggressiveness is going to get going, and it just takes a little bit of time for that stuff to wind down. And like everybody's making a big deal out of stuff of that nature that's happening here lately, but I think we're gasping at fumes. Like I think we need to tell ICE agents and all of them, hey, look, you know what? You guys have done a wonderful job, but we're at a 10 right now. Maybe we need to bring it down to a 2.
And I agree with you there, but I also believe that the people that have been protesting, and you've heard them call these agents everything under the sun.
But every video that we see about this stuff, think about it. It's been like 3 months in advance. It's 3 months behind.
And here's the challenge that we have is these guys go in there and they put on that badge and they take all the risks. It's just like a cop. The reason that a cop comes out and he has that pistol ready to go if he needs to is because he doesn't know what he's walking into. And a random traffic stop for a cop is the single most dangerous event of his day.
Yeah, I just got 5 texts. I am so sorry, Denny, Phyllis, Mark. I hijacked the show. I've had 3-4 of my friends just text me, way to hijack his shit, dude.
Hey,
so I just want to say I'm sorry.
Hey, no. Okay, for your friends, chill out. This is how I operate. Freedom chat means freedom chat. You guys, all you people out there who watch this show or don't watch this show or watch the recordings of this show, how many times have you guys, Joel, how many times have I said, if you want to come on, then come on. You are welcome to come on. It doesn't matter who you are. That's the whole point of this chat. This chat is not an echo chamber, and this chat is not strictly for Republicans. This chat is for any American, no matter what your view is, to come on and express yourself, no matter how it is. Yes, we are political, and yes, we are talking about current events, which politics are a very, very large part of current events. But hell, if you guys wanted to talk about the Army-Navy football game yesterday, I don't care. That's what Freedom Chat is about. So,
why would you?
all of your friends.
I know,
if
right?
you guys want to jump on and hijack my show, by all means, come in, hijack the show. Wave the damn skull and crossbone flags. I'm cool with it. I'm John Paul Jones. Damn it, I have not yet begun to fight.
There you go. Stand up for me, Mark. Yeah. But I literally just came on here just to say, Merry Christmas and that.
Merry Christmas to you too, brother.
Very glad that you guys are here, and if I don't see you before Christmas, during like an appointment or whatever, I just want to say that I was glad that you guys are here and bring on 2026.
Joel, hey, I got this for you, bro.
Yeah, we haven't connected. That's sad, dude. He only lives like 13 minutes and we can't even connect. And we're griping about how our government's messed up. That's a pot kettle black. Jesus. All right, well, I'm gonna get off here.
All right, man.
You can always run over a little bit because I didn't mean to hijack your show.
No,
But,
hey, you didn't hijack it. You joined it.
So, you guys, thank you very much.
Hey, Merry Christmas, man.
Merry
Merry
Christmas.
Christmas.
I'll see you guys soon.
All right, love you, brother.
Love
See you,
you.
Joe.
Man, that was a fun little segue out.
That's good. That's good.
You know what's amazing about him is he comes from such a unique perspective. I'm not going to talk about all of the things that he's had to deal with in his life, but I admire and respect Joel. I will give a little bit of a background. Joel worked for The Fan for years as one of the tech guys on their show, and they wanted to pay him a lot of money, and he decided to create MBR. And if it weren't for Joel, we wouldn't have the platform that we've got, because we'd still be trying to figure out how to afford it on our own. And I can't tell you how much I'm grateful. That's one reason. Hey, Joel can come on, and look, Lucas, if you're watching, you can jump on anytime you want, man. Nobody has any animosity towards anybody. I don't have any true animosity towards Jason Crow, and I agree with Joel. I believe wholeheartedly that we need to have conversations with these people that are face to face and not passive aggressive or direct or indirect. The challenge that you have is, how do you gain access? And that's what we all kind of miss. You have to be invited to speak in front of Congress. Well, how the hell am I going to do that? Jason doesn't like me. He doesn't know me. He doesn't like me, because I am extremely critical of him and his policies. I'm not critical of his service. I'm not critical of him as a person. I don't know him, but his policies and the things that he has done in my name, as a constituent of his, in my mom's name, as a constituent, as a representative of her. He was one of the lawyers for Donald Trump's second impeachment. He could have turned that appointment down from Nancy Pelosi, but he didn't. And he's accused, and my mom mentioned this beforehand, and I'm going to get back to this later. The response that Donald Trump called for the arrest and prosecution and execution, which Donald Trump did not say. Donald Trump did not call for any of that. That is a blatant lie to me directly in an email. Called for his prosecution and execution. Yeah, arrest, yes. You were subverting the chain of command. You were going outside of your purview as a congressman. So yes, you should have been arrested. You should have been brought up on charges. Sorry, not sorry. I don't care. So you can say whatever you want to say about any of this other stuff. Mom, you awake?
I am.
Okay, good. Because your eyes are closed, I get nervous.
Yes, they are, but I'm awake.
But he would, and the other thing he says is that the president stated that he believed our video. Okay, that isn't what he said. He said that sedition is punishable by death. Well, newsflash, Congressman Crow, sedition is punishable by death. And what you did was a direct seditious act, whether you want to admit it or whether you don't. What you did was told military members that they didn't have to follow orders of those appointed over them, period. And don't give me this illegal crap. We've taught, you and I have, the two of us have spoke at great length and ad nauseum about the fact that we all understand morally and ethically what's illegal and what's not.
And I keep seeing visions in my mind of stories that I've heard about the troops in Afghanistan, among other places, coming up to a little kid who looks perfectly innocent, and they know they ought to shoot him because they know that he's probably not perfectly innocent, but because we're Americans,
It's
we
not
have
because,
morals.
Mom, it's not because we're Americans. It's because we have morals, and it's
We
because
have-
it's because we have value. Okay, here's an example.
Our troops have values, and they don't shoot the kid, but the kid sets off the bomb.
Okay, so I want to talk about that because that goes to the core of what my point has been about that video that they did. And yes, Joel is 100% right. 99% of the military members aren't even aware because they live in a vacuum, and that's the whole point of a chain of command and why it works as well as it does, because they're in a vacuum. But it's the ones that step outside of that vacuum that you should be concerned about. What I was getting ready to tell you guys is a little story from one of my buddies from the reserves. He was a door gunner in a Black Hawk, and he took fire. His ship took fire, and the gunfire hit one of the guys that was in his helicopter. So he naturally, as a door gunner, he returned fire. And when he looked down, it was a 13-year-old young boy that he shot. And he carried that with him for a very, very long time. And what I told him is I'm not going to pretend that I know how you feel. But what I will tell you is the mistake you're making is that you're looking at that 13-year-old boy and you're remembering your 13-year-old childhood where you played baseball or you played Little League football or you were in middle school and you were just learning how to chase girls. And that kid, from the moment that he was old enough to pick up an AK-47, was taught the more you kill, the greater your chance to get your 72 virgins is. So the value structure of the place that he was at was entirely different from the value structure that he grew up himself in. And therein lies the biggest problem that I've got with these 6 guys. And let's not even go into the fact that everyone should condemn the president's call for murder and political violence. He didn't call for murder or political violence. However, political violence has been perpetrated not only on him, but on many of his supporters or the people who voted for him, or even people who didn't vote for him but voted in a direction towards the conservative side. So how are you going to this? And this is, as my daughter so eloquently taught me, this is what gaslighting is. Gaslighting is pointing the finger at someone for something you yourself are guilty of. Because that side of the fence has perpetrated political violence and political rhetoric that is violent on a regular basis. We can pull. You can pull. Those of you watching, go do a YouTube search of Democrats threatening President Trump. Simple little search on YouTube. Dennis, there's a 15-minute video of everybody from the former President Biden to Maxine Waters talking about they're going to beat the hell out of him, or they're going to take him out, or everything under the sun. So as far as Jason Crow is concerned, he can pack sand with that statement because he himself is unwilling to acknowledge or call out his own party for perpetrating the same thing that he's accusing the president of. So I don't want to hear that crap.
Well, it's all part of the coup d'etat. They're trying their hardest. And actually what's going to happen, Mark, is it's going to end up backfiring on them.
Oh, I agree 100%. I mean, the congressman emailing me, this is the next statement. The president has weaponized the federal government against me and continues to use our Justice Department to go after his political opponents. Where? Congressman Crow, where has he done that? Give me a specific that he's gone after his political opponents. How many of his political opponents are currently sitting in jail? How many of his political opponents are currently on trial? Hell, the only 2 indictments that have come out against his quote-unquote political appointments got tossed out by a federal freaking judge.
Yep.
And that would be James Comey and Letitia James. So explain that to me. I would like the congressman to explain that accusation in detail. He has instructed the FBI to open an inquiry into him. Yes, he has, because you told military service members that they didn't have to follow orders that they believed were illegal, which is not your place, Congressman Crow.
Nope.
It's not your place. Okay, Mom, am I right? Is that not his place, or is that his place to tell military members to subvert the chain of command?
That's not his business. He's not part of the War Department.
And here's the that's one point, but here's the other part. Thanks to Congress and thanks to the Senate, the president has carte blanche to even send troops. If the president wants to send troops into Venezuela tomorrow, he can call it an operation instead of calling it a declaration of war, and he can do it.
Well, that's the other thing.
Because they've been doing it since Korea.
Yep.
Did exactly that.
I believe Clinton is the one that put it into law that they could do that.
No, that went as far back as President Eisenhower and Korea, Mom. That went as far back as 1950.
Well, he did. He updated it or something.
Well, whatever he
did.
And here's the thing, Mom. Here's the problem.
Just a minute. Wait, I forgot. Three of our troops were killed in Syria.
I am aware of that, and I wasn't even going to bring it up, because what the hell are they doing there?
Because Trump said he's going to go in.
Because they're into Syria? No, he hasn't been talking about going into Syria at all. If we know anything about this president, he wants as minimal troops on ground as he can have.
He's going to take, let me rephrase it. He's going to take care of it.
Yes, he's going to take care of it. But the question still remains, why are there troops in these other countries unless they're only in advisory positions? That is a question that needs to be answered. And this is me. They all need to come home. The reason I wear a red t-shirt on Fridays is because it is to remind people that we still have young men and young women in harm's way, period. And we need to remember that, and we need to think about them every Friday. That's why Red Friday exists, especially in the military community. But here's what I don't like about the rest of this email. The FBI inquiry is bogus, not based on any facts. Well, no, your fact was that you made a video. Another little fact for any one of you people in Congress. There is one congressman, and his name is Rand Paul, and he's a senator who has been trying to get the Presidential War Powers Act reversed so that you can't send troops into harm's way without authorization of Congress, which is how it should be. That's why you have the separation of powers. That way one can check and balance over another. It doesn't say that the president can't take and throw airstrikes. That's not what it's saying. That is saying if you're going to send troops on ground, you need congressional authority to send troops on ground. And I'm going to be 100% honest with anybody who is listening. I am all for it. We need to have a checks and balance system in our government as it pertains to our military. That's why the Constitution was written. That's why our Constitution exists. And that law that has been subverted and perverted again and again and again since Korea should be reversed. Or for the love of God, you people that are in Congress, when you guys do a bill or do a law, you need to put limits on this crap, man. You can't keep doing this open-ended garbage and call it okay, because the only thing it does is it allows you to wash your hands. Well, I wasn't the congressman that wrote it, so it's not my responsibility. Yeah, but you're there to govern, which means you're there to help policy work. And if policy doesn't work, but hey, it's just like Roe v. Wade. 50 freaking years Roe v. Wade existed. And I'm not going to talk about the morality or the immorality of abortion. I'm talking about the 7 Supreme Court justices that override Roe v. Wade. Why in that 50 years, why did you not have a single House of Congress, make that a law? There were plenty of presidents that would have signed that thing into law. You know it, Mom. You damn sure know it. Clinton would have signed it into law. Hell, LBJ would have signed that damn thing into law. But no, they took the lazy way and they took the easy way, and the end result was a whole bunch of people who don't know anything about our government and don't know anything about the Constitution coming out, and of course the politicians. That is our fundamental right. Shut up. You don't even know what you're talking about, and you're serving in the office.
It was Carter's time. LBJ was gone.
But you get where I'm coming. I'm talking about Roe versus Wade.
I know. Roe versus Wade.
What year was that?
Well, it was after LBJ. It was about the time of Carter.
Are you sure?
Yes,
I'm going to challenge you to research it.
Look up whatever her name was.
So back to Jason Crow. And he's not... This guy was silent when the FBI raided Mar-a-Lago. That is hypocrisy. This guy was silent when Trump was not only campaigning, but was sitting in a courthouse being convicted, not convicted, of felonies that everybody knew was trumped up. Everybody knew they were false. Hell, even Alan Dershowitz, who is a dyed-in-the-wool Democrat, said that those charges were complete. So Congressman Crow, this is me to you. Don't give me that crap. I'm tired of hearing that. This is what you want. I'm tired of you pointing the finger at a man when you and your party are more than guilty of the same thing. So that's very frustrating. He went on to say, I encourage you to continue contacting him about issues that are important to him. I'm going to try to have a face-to-face with him. So I'll keep y'all posted on how that turns out. Because Joel's right. We need to be willing to meet with them face to face and have a real no bull crap conversation with them. And I'm not intimidated by him. So I'm also not intimidated by Trump. And most of you guys know I'm not intimidated by anybody. It's just not in my makeup. Mom, so we're gonna get off here in a second. I don't know what the hell that is. I don't care about that. There we go. So Roe v. Wade was 1973, Mom. That would be before Carter.
Just before.
That would have been under Gerald Ford. Am I correct?
Yeah.
So he would have been the president. But the point that I'm making is how many different presidents would have been more than willing to sign that into law? Well, we know Carter would have. If the Congress and the Senate would have done their job and presented it as a bill and pushed it through, how many times have the Senate and the House both been in control of one party? Numerous times since 1973. Am I right or am I wrong there?
A couple of times at least.
Okay, right. So my point is, with as many times as we've seen those things happen, there's no excuse to say you can't take something like Roe v. Wade, produce it into a bill, and push it through and have it signed. The Supreme Court's they already made it, so they're already going to support it. That's my point. We have representatives that don't represent, is my point. And Jason Crow is one of them. Jason Crow is as empty of a suit as I've ever seen as a congressman. And to sit there and gaslight the president of the United States for things that he himself was very guilty of doing is more than disgusting. So, we didn't even get to some of the other things that I wanted to get to, which was the Syria incident. So guess what we're going to do next week? We're going to talk about slavery, and we're going to talk about what happened in Sydney, because I'm sure more facts will come out. And we're going to talk about Brown University, because I'm sure more facts are going to come out over the next week concerning what happened at Brown and what happened in Sydney. But we are going to talk about slavery, because I was listening to Michael Brown, and Danny Corbin and I talked about this, and then Mom, you and I talked about this. Michael Brown did a radio show. He does a radio show every Saturday morning, and he talked at great length about slavery, not from the perspective of the slaves that came to the United States. He talked at great length about slavery decades ago. We're talking about centuries long. And what his whole point was, this was all because our good friend Joy Reid, Mom, you and I really like Joy Reid. She's a Coloradan, unfortunately. We love Joy Reid, right? She came out. she came out.
She likes blonde hair.
She came out and she said some pretty. We'll talk about it next week. But I will say this about Joy Reid. She's got to be one of the dumbest smart people I've ever seen in my life. Is that about right, Mom?
No, she's just a racist.
Wait, she's black, right? You can't be racist and black, right?
You can be a racist no matter what color you are.
But Mom, I'm just telling you that's what people like her are going to say. I can't be racist. I'm black.
Yeah, well, she's wrong.
Dennis, would you like to chime in on that? Can you be racist?
Her and Jasmine Crockett.
Well, that's another person who's not racist because she's black, right?
That woman from California, whatever her name is.
Are we talking about Maxine Waters?
Yeah, Maxine Waters together.
So what you're telling me is those three black women can't be. You're telling me that they're racist, but they can't be racist because they're black.
I'm telling you, they're as racist as they can be.
Mom, I'm trying to be sarcastic, and you're not helping.
Well, I can be sarcastic too, but
just so all of you know that are watching this show that is now 13 minutes over, I'm a little disappointed because I didn't get to do my funny breaks. You can be black and and racist. Being racist by definition has nothing to do with the color of your skin. It has everything to do with how you feel about people who are not of the color of your skin. Just thought I'd put that out there.
And it's
Dennis,
not,
is that true? You're
you
white.
can be racist whether against somebody that's the same color. It has absolutely nothing to do with that. It has to do with not liking somebody who's different than you are. People are idiots.
Right. What I'm getting at is the definition of racism is based on race.
Well,
it's based on the fact that, hey, if I'm a Mexican and I look over at a white person and I call him a honky, it's because I either feel that I'm superior or that I don't like them because of their skin color.
That'd be a gringo, actually, Mark.
I always thought it was honky or white boy.
No, honky's what black people call white people.
Oh,
gringo is what.
Well, hang on a second. I got called honky a lot when I was in grade school and middle school, and that was by Mexicans.
That's because you're a white guy.
Oh, I was also called Carrot Top, but we don't need to get into that. All right. Well, we had a really good.
All I know is that when your human race is at the end of it, because we're all a part of the human race.
See, and
So we're all racist.
Before we get, no, we're not all racist. Well, we shouldn't be all racist. We should all just be human. That reminds me, I went to Riverside Cemetery yesterday, and Dennis and Mom, you both should be really, really proud of me because I showed an extreme amount of restraint. A woman and her friend ran into me at the cemetery, and the woman was very, very, very. If you guys looked at my Facebook, the National Honor Tour Facebook page, you would see pictures of headstones from my work at Riverside. That was my Wreaths Across America contribution. I only do 10 and sometimes 12, but I only do 12. I have 3 Medal of Honor recipients. I have Civil War veterans. I have unknown soldiers. I have a man named Silas Soul, who was a witness to what happened at Sand Creek. I have a Mexican-American War veteran who is also a sailor that I lay a wreath at. And I after I lay the wreath, I perform taps in front of their headstone. Been doing it for about, 5-6 years, right, Mom? About 5 years I've been doing that. So I run into this lady, and she pointed out a couple of headstones that I need to do more research on. And I actually found another one that I don't think she knew about. But right next to one of the Medal of Honor recipients that's buried at Riverside is a man who was part of one of the colored infantry units. So he's a black man. He's right next to a Medal of Honor recipient. Now, I don't really care that it's a black man. I don't really care that the Medal of Honor recipient is white, because I actually do see the world colorblind. I don't care what color of skin you are. I don't care about any of that stuff, and I haven't forever. She wanted to make sure that I knew that he was a black man. And she talked about how a lot of the colored people came over and were, slaves, and I didn't have the, I held my tongue. I didn't tell her, it wasn't just black people that came over as slaves. That's just who gets talked about the most. That's the problem, is that's who gets talked about more than the others. But
convicts came over too.
Well, yeah, the indentured servants from Scotland and Ireland that were still, they were called indentured servants, but they were slaves. And Mom, you and I talked about the Hessians. The Hessians were hired guns, but the men who were the soldiers were not being paid very much. And they were there as a part of service or servitude also. And they didn't have the heart to really get into this with this woman, because she's really passionate, but she was also being a perpetual victim. And that's going to be one of the things that we're going to talk about next week, which is the issue with slavery is not relegated to just what happened to the African slaves that came to the Americas. We're going to talk about all of it. We're going to talk about how the Muslims actually had the patent on the slave trade, actually had the monopoly on the slave trade for centuries before the Europeans got into the game. Because that was one of the things that Michael Brown talked about. And what his point was, and we're going to get off right after I say this, the point Michael Brown was making is the point that I have made numerous times, and it's also a point that my mom has made numerous times. If you're not willing to look at the entire element of history, then you are numb to it, and you're selling not only yourself short, but you're selling generations short. Because if you're not willing to look at and acknowledge all of something that's ugly, then you're not doing anybody any favors. Because nobody can grow unless there's an acknowledgement of all of it. Not just what happened to the blacks that came over here, but all of it. So we're going to, you guys now got a snapshot of what we're going to cover next week. And yes, we are going to cover what happened in Australia. And yes, we are probably going to cover what happened at Brown. So, and of course, that is all predicated on hopefully nothing else stupid happening over the week, because God knows at least one day a week, something crazy happens.
You can count on it.
Yep. All right, guys. I had a lot of fun.
Same
I
here.
don't know how much fun y'all had, but I had a lot of fun.
It was good.
I learned how to sleep with my eyes open.
Thank you all for putting up with my crap. Thank you, Dennis and Mom, for putting up with my crap.
Nah, no worries.
I do appreciate you guys, and I apologize that I end up doing most of the chatting. It's not intentional. I try to get a little better every week.
It's all good, dude.
But,
it's always enjoyable no matter what.
Yeah. All right, we're going to jump off. Love you guys. God bless you guys. God bless these United States of America.
Merry Christmas and all that.
Merry Christmas. See you next week.
Yep.
Go Broncos!
Go Broncos!
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to Military Broadcast Radio. As we wrap up today's show, we want to remind you that the podcast of today's episode will be available right after we go off the air. So if you missed any part of the show or want to listen again, be sure to check it out. And remember, we're here to support and honor our veterans. Your stories and experiences matter, and we are committed to giving you a platform to share them. That's right. We're here to give our veterans a voice. So don't forget to catch the podcast and stay connected with us. Giving our veterans a voice.